Instructions like forward or right turn. Every time the robot receives an instruction, it carries it out. Robots can be given a number of instructions and asked to carry them out one after the other. So now it's following a pattern of instructions as it moves. The pattern of instructions can be stored in the system's memory and used over and over again to get the robot to carry out the same movements over and over again. Robots can be given complex patterns of instructions, which result in complex patterns of movements. But is slavishly following a pattern of instructions really learning? What sort of jobs can robots actually do? Can they do apparently simple jobs like, say, shopping? We take shopping for granted. We usually know what we want, and we usually know where to find it or how to ask. And we can usually move around the shop without bumping into anything. Sometimes we change our minds, and sometimes we act on a whim. But could a robot do any of this? In fact, could a robot really go shopping? At the moment, this robot has no instructions about shopping. So, first of all, it has to be taught a path to follow through the shop. At each stage, instructions are entered on the keypad, and the robot carries them out. The instructions also remain in the memory, so the robot is able to repeat them again later. Every time the robot has to do something different, say when it comes to a junction, it has to be told what to do. It has to be given instructions to stop, to turn, and to move off again. But once it's been given the instructions, it stores them in memory. In this way, the robot can build up the complete route through the shop. Once at the correct shelf, it can be given another set of instructions to use its arm and gripper to pick up something, in this case, a toy robot. Really complex sets of movements can be built up from quite simple commands. When the programming is complete, the robot has a pattern which it will repeat as often as it's asked. This is what robots are good at, doing what they're told, following instructions faithfully and reliably. And it will continue following that pattern time after time. Mind you, there are still some problems. It hasn't been told anything about the other shoppers. It has no instructions about what to do. In fact, it doesn't even know the people are there. Vision systems for this robot are still under development. And if things have been moved around in the shop, it needs to be told to do something different. Its stored pattern of instructions needs to be changed. Here, the robot is not aware that it has already taken the toy and the shelf is bare. It's not that the robot couldn't go to another toy. It's just that it would need a sensing system and an appropriate set of instructions about what to do. Most robots are designed to follow sets of simple instructions. But that doesn't mean that this robot and other robots are useless. Far from it. In certain circumstances, robots can be better than people. Sometimes they can work faster. Often they're more accurate and more reliable and more consistent. That doesn't mean robot systems are the answer to everything. But with their pattern of instructions, they are very good at doing the same job over and over again. In just 12 hours' time, thousands of fans will be arriving here to watch Dire Straits live on stage. So, between now and then, truckloads of equipment have to be unloaded and set up. There's the sound system to be sorted out. And there's a massive and complicated lighting rig to put up. For the fans, there's more to the concert than just the music or even the band. Today, concert goers expect a good sound and they expect an exciting light show. And that means about 10 hours of non-stop hard work for the road crew. At the heart of the lighting system is the control desk, set up in full view of the stage. Faders control a single light or a group of lights by varying signals in microelectronic devices, which in turn control the flow of electricity to the lights on the stage. Like many other things to do with microelectronics, lighting control systems have changed dramatically over the last few years, not least because of these lights, vari-lights. Signals change not only the brightness, but also the colour, the beam size, and where the lights point. These lights can move. The vari-lights are controlled from their own lighting desk. The signals from the desk go to the microelectronic control unit, which alters the lights on the stage. Chaz Herrington is the lighting designer for Dire Straits. It's Chaz who designs, who creates, all the effects. He decides what the light show will look like. And that involves hundreds of different setups, hundreds of different patterns of lights. During the concert, there's not time to move all the faders by hand. So, during the rehearsals, Chaz works out all the different setups, all the different patterns, and stores them in the microelectronic memories in the control desk. This desk has lots of memories. Each memory can store hundreds of different patterns, each involving maybe hundreds of separate lights. Each pattern can be recalled whenever it's wanted. Without the ability to store away the different patterns in memory, it would be literally impossible for Chaz to plan and use complex lighting effects. And that's not the only advantage of using this equipment. This tour involves many different venues, so the lights have to be fine-tuned. For instance, each vari-light has to point to exactly the right position. So each stored pattern is called up from the memory in turn. The pattern is altered as necessary to meet the new situation. And then the revised pattern is stored back in the memory. In the past, this would have taken a lot longer, and it would have needed more people. Efficiency is important, even in the rock business. Because the patterns are so flexible, Chaz can still make small changes even during the concert itself, subtly altering the patterns to give the best effects. Now you can see why the system's memories are so important. Microelectronics really do turn up in some unexpected places. The MG Metro 6R4, a very special rally car. It's both powerful and rugged, built to survive the roughest and toughest of the world's rallies. highly competitive world of international rallying, you need the best car, the best engine, and now the best microelectronics. The engine of this car is controlled by a variety of microelectronic devices. At the heart of many car engines is a piston moving up and down in a cylinder. A mixture of petrol and air is squirted into the space above the piston. A spark from a spark plug makes that mixture explode. The explosion pushes the piston down. This process is repeated over and over again. The engine works best when the petrol is squirted in at just the right time and the spark sets off the explosion at just the right time. Those timings are controlled by the microelectronic engine management system. Now, microelectronic engine control systems are being fitted to ordinary road cars. And it's not just a matter of performance. This car is easier to drive, has better fuel economy, and most important of all, it produces less pollution. As the car goes faster or slower, or climbs hills and so on, the engine has to behave differently. The fuel has to be squirted in at different times, and the spark has to set off the explosion at different times. The change in timing is controlled by the microelectronics. The memory has 256 different patterns of settings. Each pattern is stored in the memory as a binary code. The best pattern of settings for the particular circumstances is called up from memory. The trick is making sure it's the most appropriate pattern which is called up. That's why cars like this are fitted with a variety of sensors to measure what the engine is doing. Sensors for measuring things like air temperature, engine temperature, speed, the amount of fuel, and when the explosion actually happens. The sensors send the signals to the central processing unit, which is programmed to select the most appropriate pattern from the memory to adjust the timings of the petrol injection and the spark. The sensors monitor what the engine is doing all the time. If it changes in some way, then the sensors detect that change and send the information to the central unit, which then selects another pattern from memory. The sensors and the microelectronic control unit are directly controlling the engine and what it does. The engineers programmed the unit in that way because they want the engine to work well under a variety of conditions. In the last few years, cars haven't really changed that much, except for the microelectronics. And what's next? Perhaps designers are thinking about how to reduce the chance of cars crashing into each other, or about cars that won't start if the drivers had too much to drink. Today, microelectronic devices are all around us. They're an everyday part of our everyday lives. Doing things the microelectronic way is here to stay. We're continually thinking up new and different uses, and our thinking is developing all the time. For thousands of years, this was the most advanced calculator in the world. Now we use microelectronic calculators, as well as computers of all shapes and sizes. Computers that can do millions of calculations in a second without a mistake. In the past, we controlled most things ourselves. We relied on our own senses and decision-making skills. Now we have microelectronic systems to help us. For instance, computer-aided design is becoming common, especially in places such as the design studios of the motorcar industry. In the past, the plans went to people who worked on production lines. Often this was repetitive work and therefore dull and boring. Now, the plans are passed directly from the design computer to the microelectronic systems controlling the machines. The machines do the dull, repetitive tasks more accurately, more reliably, and more efficiently. Some production line jobs are far from pleasant. Paint spraying is not very healthy, but it is a good job for a robot. For all sorts of reasons, robots are becoming an everyday sight in modern factories. And they can do some very complicated jobs. There's no doubt that people on a production line are being replaced by robots. Of course, there is a limit to what these robots can do. If they don't have the right pieces, in the right place, at the right time, they just produce rubbish. But engineers are working on robots with sensors. This one is fitted with a camera. It can sort of see what it's working with. It can detect the holes, and it's been programmed to put the bolts in the holes. These are chess-playing computers. Occasionally, they can even beat a human chess master. Because they're sophisticated and powerful, they can look ahead at lots of allowed moves and pick the best. They're still not intelligent, but they can appear to be sometimes. Because microelectronic systems can do all these different things, we can make use of them in many different ways. For instance, designing new chips is so complex that we couldn't do it without the help of microelectronic systems. It's a case of older chips being used to design and make the newer chips. And those new chips might be used to design even more complex and powerful chips. So, what then? Microelectronic systems are being used to design new microelectronic systems. They are doing things people couldn't do on their own. And all the time, the systems are getting more and more sophisticated and powerful. But microelectronic systems are here to stay. It's up to us to decide how to use them. And it's up to us to decide what effect they will have on every aspect of our lives.